name is Lily So. I volunteered in La Ceiba, Honduras at the clinic and hospital, and I was here from July 13th through the 27th. The local Broad Review coordinator and the support provided here were all really great and friendly. I immediately felt at home and very secure, and like I could go to anyone if I had any questions. The most surprising thing I experienced at the program was the amount of hands-on time I got. I was a little surprised, and it was unexpected, but also very exciting and a very unique experience. And so from my very first day in the clinic, I was asked to clean wounds and remove sutures, insert a catheter, so many amazing experiences, and yeah, that was very surprising. At the accommodation, I was not expecting it to be so hot, and at times there was no power, and no lights, no water either, so that was a little surprising, but nothing I couldn't get used to within a few days. The most surprising thing about the country was how safe I felt, actually. I had heard some things about Honduras and how it may be dangerous, but I never actually felt unsafe, especially because the neighborhood where the volunteers stay is very safe, and I even felt comfortable walking home alone at night since I lived so close to my supervisor. And the most difficult thing to experience at the program was the lack of resources in the clinic. There were several times where I couldn't treat a patient as best as I felt I could, simply because there was no more gauze or no more materials to work with. And so that was very frustrating and difficult, but I think it's also important that the volunteers experience that, because that is part of why you're here in Honduras, to volunteer. At the accommodation, I think the most difficult thing was just how hot it was, but you definitely won't miss having a hot shower. The cold shower is something you'll look forward to, and you just slowly acclimate to the heat. The country, the most difficult thing to experience was maybe some lack of awareness about certain medical conditions that could be so easily treated. For example, I saw many patients at the clinic and hospital who had no idea that they were diabetic, and so they were maintaining blood glucose levels climbing towards 600 or even higher sometimes for maybe months or years, I'm not sure how long. But some things like that, where in the United States it's so quickly diagnosed and then very easily managed. People aren't aware of that here sometimes, and so that was interesting to see and a little difficult to see as well. Some tips for future volunteers. In terms of clothing, I would definitely bring enough scrubs, especially because you'll have to change into a clean pair if you want to watch surgeries or deliveries at the hospital. So ideally, maybe 4 or 5 or more pairs of scrubs would be very good to have here. In terms of donations, I would bring as much gauze as you can possibly pack into your suitcase. Also, things like acetaminophen and ibuprofen would be very helpful. And the clinic is very in need of stethoscopes and blood pressure cuffs. So those would be really amazing donations to give. The weather is obviously very hot, as I've mentioned before. So definitely bring a reusable water bottle to stay hydrated, and of course, sunscreen and bug spray. Some other things volunteers should know. I wish I had brought a flashlight with me, because there are times when the lights will go out and you're trying to remove a patient's stitches. And so having a flashlight on you in the clinic would have been very helpful. What else? Just be very open-minded and flexible. Sometimes schedules don't work out exactly as you might expect, or there might be a last-minute change in plans, but it's nothing to worry about ever, and just being very flexible will make everything no problem at all. So my experience experience with A Broader View was overall amazing. I think the program can offer you an experience unlike any other program available. And I think my most important tip to volunteers would be to be very proactive when you're in the clinic and hospital. So at first, when I was in the emergency room for the first night, I was a little shy because I couldn't speak Spanish very well and I was unsure of myself. So I kind of stood in the corner and was waiting for a doctor to ask me for help. But instead of doing that, I would take initiative and be ready with gloves or gauze or suture kit or whatever other materials you think the doctor may need. Step in and offer your help first instead of being waited to ask. And that will just make your experience go from good to amazing. My accommodations, meals, and security were all very great. Things were relatively organized. My host mom was an amazing cook and the food was really great. I would also recommend trying some street food like baleadas. And I never felt unsafe, especially in the neighborhood that I stayed in. My favorite memory of this trip in terms of the program was getting to work with and making friends with all the other volunteers. Within the clinic and hospital, they give so much support and guidance and encouragement. And then outside of work, you also get to have a lot of fun together. So that was great meeting a lot of new friends here. My favorite memory of the country was getting to go on all the weekend activities. The beaches and rivers, everything here is so beautiful, and Honduras has a lot of natural beauty, so those activities are definitely worth the investment. The A Broader View USA support prior to my travels was very organized. The website was informative and had a lot of the information that I needed, but whatever I still was wondering about, I emailed them. They responded very promptly, reassured me about everything. Their online chat was also very helpful. So those are some resources that I would recommend taking advantage of if you still have questions. And I am of course willing to speak to other volunteers if you ever want to get in touch with me, maybe